it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome back to Her Success Story. To the new listeners, welcome to Her Success Story, where we interview and chat with women leaders on their journey and what they can share with us that makes a difference and how we can apply it in our own lives. And subscribers, welcome back to another amazing episode. Today, our guest is Tammi Leader Fuller. I had the pleasure of meeting Tammi when we were connected through a client of mine. And I'm going to share a little bit what Tammi has done, as well as what she's doing now. So she's an Emmy-Award winning TV news producer who walked out of the control room and into the woods to create what she does now, which is Campowerment. It's a transformational summer-inspired camp experience. And Tammi and I are going to talk with both of us having been campers, my children having amazing times at their summer camp programs, and what this is about adults wanting to go back and what the ability is to reconnect to the joy of the experience. Tammi herself was way back in the day, and actually not that long ago, looking for something to bring her back to her summer camp experience. And she was a producer at the Today Show. She's been with CBS and NBC News. She enjoyed an amazing career as a woman in news for over 30 years. You know, today she has had 5,000 happy campers come through Camp Empowerment. Some shout outs that she acknowledges is Oprah, Delta Sky, Parade, The Hollywood Reporter, and of course, The Today Show. Tammi, a woman who has met, done, traveled, and seen so much in this world. Thanks for joining me here at Her Success Story.
Hi, Ivy. I'm very, very excited to be here.
So you walked out of the control room and said, okay, so I've been doing this. What was your turning point that you wanted to experience and that said, hey, I want to feel like I did as that younger girl in summer camp?
So when I was a kid, I went to summer camp as you did, and as 9 million kids do every single year, sleepaway camp, where you could really get life lessons wrapped in fun and games. And I learned so much about who I was as a kid. You know, as a kid, you grow up in a house and you become who your parents want you to be. And to be able to go and be free and be outside and play and learn and grow and really learn about things that, like, you know, we didn't get second prize trophies when we were at camp. If you lost, you lost, and you learned how to deal with losing. And so, but we bonded and we connected in a way that really, for me, gave me my own identity. And I was one of those kids who lived 10 months for the 2 months. I loved camp. I lived for it. I had those friends that I knew I could count on repeatedly. And there was something about being outside, the smells of nature. We don't do that anymore. And I had this crazy idea that I wanted to go to camp, to a grown-up sleepaway camp with my girlfriends. I was about 45. I had written a book with 5 other women in Miami that was published in 2005. And the book was about how having it all isn't having it all at all, and how having enough should be enough. And this was just about the time, this was 13 years ago, when women were starting to say, like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, where's the fun here? Like, this is just, my life has become, I belong to everybody else. I'm taking care of everybody else. I'm working too hard. I'm not working out enough. I'm giving my kids too much out of guilt. And like, where's the fun here? And I was working at Warner Brothers. I was working at an entertainment show, Extra, and was doing a show called Life Changers, actually, which was really designed to help women learn how to find the joy. And I realized that I had access to hundreds and hundreds of experts in many, many fields: health and wellness and productivity and parenting and love and sex and business empowerment and energy, all of these great people. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be fun to put them together around the summer camp experience, which was the fun and the games, because we don't play enough. And I really just had a crazy idea that, to be honest, I would have loved somebody else to have done so that I could go myself and enjoy, but it didn't exist. So I thought, I'm going to try this. and really found this beautiful spot in Malibu and called the guy and said, I'd like to rent every available weekend you have in 2013 to bring people to have this great camp experience, and get inspired by these amazing people, experts. And the guy said, who's coming? And I said, who are your clients? And I said, oh, I have no idea. I just know if we build it, they will come. And that's what happened. We started in January 2013 with 40 people. And through word of mouth, I was in the entertainment business. So in the beginning, it was a lot of entertainment people. And we created a program that helps people, women. In the beginning, it was women. Now we're into co-ed and we're heading into the corporate space, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it was about helping people disconnect, get away from the phones. And again, only because we were up on a mountaintop in Malibu where there was no service and no wireless could you force people to shut their phones off. So to disconnect, to reconnect with themselves and a sisterhood of women who also were struggling to juggle all this stuff that life kept throwing at us, for us to see we're not alone. And that's really what happens. We came up there, we played, we took the masks off, and I'm a producer. So we've produced this it's a production, really, a 4-day experience where you could absolutely shift and change your life and get and play and have fun. And you could our experts immerse themselves into the program. So you could be learning from somebody, getting some great insight from a doctor, from a psychologist, from a coach, from an expert, an author, and 20 minutes later be running a relay race against them with shaving cream on your head. And so there's something about the embedding of creating community. And so we've created these tribes within a tribe. There are 150 people at a time. We do that on purpose. So you can really come and be part of something bigger, but it's not too small so that everybody's in everybody's story or business. So we've had a blast. It's called Campowerment, and we are 6 years in. We've had 23 camps, and we are now shifting and working. We're applying this principle to businesses and companies that are looking to improve and change their culture through the power of playtime. Never underestimate play. It's unbelievable how little we do it. And once you get into it, we say, why don't we do this more often?
I cannot agree with you more. Because I learned something a long time ago as a business owner. And when I still had my printing company and my kids were younger, and that was my world, we would do about 4 different types of, I'll call it vacations a year. And some were long weekends and some might've been, going up to whatever it was. There were 4 truly what I refer to as a vacation, meaning I left my office for a period of time. And 2 things happened. Yes, obviously I had fun. As I got ready to leave, the sales just started flooding in. It's notorious, it always happens. And 2, when I went and I had fun and I came back, I was more excited than ever. I was more patient. I saw creativity differently. And the impact on business by actually having fun is enormous. And it doesn't matter if you're about to build your first, second, or third company, if you're a senior vice president or CEO. When you actually embrace the fun, it opens the floodgates of creativity and what's possible to a whole new level. And as it's supported, it's a huge ripple effect and impact.
It's amazing. You're right. And even, I'm in the habit, if I don't go out to meet friends for coffee or for a glass of wine, I go to a trampoline place. I say, let's go to Goonie Golf. Like, let's just go. When you get yourself out of your normal routine and do what you're used to doing, get outside and just continue the conversations that you were going to have anyway, but in a different environment where there is silly fun. You lighten your load. You can't pour from an empty cup. And everybody today has so much on our plates, whether it's work, family, aging parents, kids with issues, whatever we're facing, and everybody's got stuff going on at this point in their life, we have to be able to take a break. And we think that we just can keep running and going, but it's not until, and it's one thing to go take a break and sit on a beach with a pina colada in your hand and rest and recharge your batteries. But when you can go to a place where there is structured fun that also takes you to places that help you dream about what it is you want, something shifts for you. We are not offered in our society places for us to go and dream with barriers or with guidelines, with roadmaps that can say, if you're not loving what you're doing here are some other options for you to consider. Have you ever asked yourself A, B, and C? And so that's what our program is about. It's not lectures where experts stand up in front and talk at you and tell you what to do. All of our programming is interactive, which helps people open their eyes and their minds through the power of fun and games and dance and karaoke and drum circles and all kinds of really fun ways to express yourself. It's the stuff we're not doing for ourselves in our daily life because we think we can't take an hour to go refuel. But when we do, and when it's structured, and when we're with people who are also oozing with joy over what we have as opposed to what we don't, the paradigm shifts completely. It's magical to watch.
So you're 5 years in, and I always think, 5 years is one of the first evolution points in business. There's because it gives us enough information, enough data to say, gee, what has been working? What is working? Where do we want to go next? What are some of the challenges and what you've learned from them that is going to jump you into the next 5? Because I think there's so much to be learned from our community is when we look at how other people have navigated things and how it doesn't stop them, it helps us grow.
Interesting that you asked that question because 5 years is a natural point to stop and re-examine and look at your business from 30,000 feet. But a lot of times we don't. We keep on the same path and the same track because we think we're going okay. The numbers look good. We feel like growth is going well. But we got stopped dead in our tracks on November 9th. You were up there. You had come. We were part of, we got caught in the Malibu fires, unfortunately. Our camp was up on a hilltop that unfortunately was the center of this Woolsey fire. And we were up there with 22 people setting up for 160 people, of which Ivy was one. And we evacuated and left everything as is, literally like Pompeii. Came down, thought we were going to be able to come back the next day. And within 12 hours, the camp was completely incinerated, decimated, took everything with it. And really forced us, interestingly, to look at our business. And sometimes we try to improve things, especially in business, and we take a look at things and say, well, this isn't working, let's try this. But very rarely do we start from the beginning and blow it all up and pull up the roots and say, okay, what works, what doesn't, and what do we want to do? We were forced to do that. The universe sent us a very clear message, I think, that said, okay, now this is so not what you had thought about, but it's forcing you to look at all of the areas where you built on things that might not have been totally healthy. And so we excavated a lot. And it was really, I don't think we realized, when it was only 3 months ago, I don't think we realized at the time that we were really digging deep and pulling everything up and out. But as we did, every time we opened a new door and uncovered something that was not, that we continued to go around to work around, we realized, let's just start that over. Let's just pull that up and rebuild it from scratch. And it's been a challenge, but right now we are heavily involved in a complete, we're rewriting our business plan. We have learned, we've got a new website under construction. We're doing our CRM, like everything is we've completely blown it all up, with taking the learnings that we never would have really understood had they not been right in our face. So it really was a blessing, and it is not easy to learn from some of those mistakes. But when you really look at things, when you're building something from the beginning, especially from scratch without a roadmap, which is what we did, you kind of don't know what you're doing. So you put one foot in front of the other and it works, and that seems to work. And so then you go and move on to something else. What we learned from this is that there were a lot of patches we put on things. And as we started to excavate, we saw, let's just redo that in a different kind of way, knowing what we know now. And that's been a really, really great, fun and exciting journey that we hadn't planned for, weren't going to. I didn't realize my Christmas holidays were going to be completely rebuilding a business, but we're learning so much. And what we're really learning is that there are so many, the whole corporate sphere is so different than it's been in the past. And there are so many companies right now that are merging and that are having attrition problems and are having communication problems, and they're asking their employees to do more with less, and they're really not treating them holistically. They're not giving them places to unplug and disconnect, and they're not collaborating in a way. So many people feel so burdened corporately now by additional responsibilities that were never sort of part of their plan, and feel like it might be a little uneven. And so what companies are now recognizing is if they want to keep their good people, they need to get them functioning and communicating well together. And how do we do that? And our Lululemon was our first client. They came to us and said, we had some people who came to your camp. We want to do X, Y, Z. We have all of these ambassadors that don't work together, that don't know each other. Here's our bottom line. Here's our mission. How do we get them connected to the mission, talking to each other, collaborating and working together so that we win and they win too, and they feel cared for and they feel valued and they feel treasured. And so our very first one we did in 2015 for Lululemon, and we've since done for Nestle and for Snapchat and for some smaller companies and some healthcare companies. And we have learned that, especially in the world of business, you have to let go. You have to lighten up. You have to be able to unplug. You have to be a better parent if you're going to be working harder. So the company is responsible for helping you figure out how to be a better parent in less time, because you're not going to be there. We have to have stress relievers. It's not just about meditation. It's about letting people really bust it out and play and lean on each other and learn how to collaborate and communicate in a way that they're not doing. And so that's what we've learned, is the corporate sphere is where we really want to go, because that's where we think we can make a really big difference.
I think there's a ripple effect in that difference, which is beautiful. And in looking at Campowerment, when you touch 150 to 60 people in a corporation, the ripple effect through that and all the people it touches, if you just say each individual attendee or camper in this way touches 5 people in their department. Got it? And they touch 5 people in their personal life. The ripple effect is 1,500 people that camp touches per person.
Yep.
Right?
It's unbelievable. No, it's
huge. It is huge.
And especially, these HR professionals who come to us and we talk to, they say it's no longer just about the employee. We've got to keep the families happy too. And if we can get everybody whole, we can save money on healthcare, because nobody's going to get sick enough. But more importantly, it's about we all need to sometimes put our hands up and say, stop. That's what vacations are for, right? You take a time out, you freeze, you go and you play and you do. And for many of us, we go on vacation and we don't stop. We want to go to these places and we want to explore, but we're not really recharging. We're changing our environment and we're not answering our phones and we're connecting. But Campowerment is really an interesting way. As I said, it's a heavily produced way where we present joyful spaces for humans to connect with themselves and each other in a way that we have not found has existed anywhere else. I
love that. So you've touched on, I have to ask this, and I want to get this out there. You've touched on family a couple of times. One of the biggest challenges is having a business that includes your family. And you've done this on 2 ends.
Yep.
What is that experience like? And can you share a little bit more about what you've done and how you've done it?
Yes. So my business partners are my almost 83-year-old mother, who was a college writing professor, who isn't just a cute little old lady in our village elder. She actually, her role at camp is to teach people how to write their legacy, how to dream about what you want to be remembered for, and how to put that pen to paper and express that even if you don't think you're a writer. So she was the one when Oprah wrote about us. Oprah wrote about us 3 months into this whole thing and blew it up. The Oprah magazine put it in on a list of 50 things that make you say, wow. And it is unbelievable, the power of that Oprah magazine, because the phone started to ring. She was in Colorado on vacation and called me and said, I think we should do something. Like, I think it's time for you to quit your job and I'll help you. And she was 77 at the time, but ready to do something different. She's a really evolved, incredible woman. And she said she really did the admin stuff while I still had my full-time job at Warner Brothers. And my daughter, who is now 30, who had been working at Tom's, the one-for-one company at the beginning, she helped them get their social media started and then worked at a digital marketing agency in New York. So she's very much a millennial and understands digital marketing strategy. She helped us, my kids were around, my family was around, it was fun, but about 2.5 years into it, Chelsea quit her job and said, I want to come help you with this. I think I can bring a new, fresh perspective to this. And the intergenerational side, not just of what we do together. So now as I said, I'm in business now with my mother and my daughter, which is really amazing that we are 3 women in the same family who spend every single day working to help people get happy. Which is like, what a gift, what a blessing that is to be able to do. But what's happened is the intergenerational side. So the people who come to Campowerment on the women's weekends are between 21 and 85 years old. And those connections are real, and they are not, you can't find that in too many places. I may be 60 years old and have a daughter who's 30, and I love her friends and I connect with them on a different level, but I'm still Chelsea's mother, and I wouldn't really share with them deep stuff or learn from them or have them learn from us. And in one of the early camps, my mom was running a circle where a woman said, I can't wait. I have 2 more years until my kids are grown, and then I can't wait to just bust out of my marriage and start this business that I've dreamed about. But I've got 2 years until my kids are out of the house, and then I'm going. And one of the girls, who was 22 at the time, stood up and said, don't wait. She said, I grew up in a house with no love. My parents stayed together for us. And I'm telling you, I don't know what love looks like, and I'm not sure I'll ever find it. So you think you're doing a service to your children, you're doing a disservice. Go do what you do and show them what happy looks like, and you'll change their life and yours. And it was such a light bulb moment for us, because it helped us see that those conversations are not happening in too many places, where people are opening up to each other in different, that are 50, 60 years apart sometimes 20 or 30, but we're able to communicate and learn through the programs that we've constructed how they can say, I want to learn from your mistakes, and how we can say, wow, you can teach us at 25 what we forgot on our road to success. And that, I think, is probably the secret sauce of what Campowerment is about. It's the intergenerational side of connection and play. The play stuff you cannot underestimate. I mean, we have the best time as we sit and do these meetings of, okay, what activities are we going to do this time that are going to change people, but they're going to get them to let go and put themselves into a space that they don't ordinarily get to. We say you dance like no one's watching, because no one cares. We're all so busy. No one cares what your tush looks like. We're so busy expressing ourselves that we are all having our own experience together. And that, to me, is what makes this thing so fun.
So one of the things I always like to occasionally ask here is, I'm a strong believer in relationships. So we were brought together through a mutual acquaintance, an ex-camper who was actually in the entertainment industry, et cetera, and came to me and said, Ivy, she's become a client of mine for quite a while now. And she said, you need to do this. You need to get involved in it. You need to do this. The way you get involved in this is you're going to go and you're going to love it. And because of my relationship and mutual respect for her, I jumped in. I had no idea what I was doing. I called to sign up, and I was like, well, because this person told me I should do this, so I'm going to sign up. Tammi, for you, when you look back on a fulfilling career in so many levels, What are some, a good example of a relationship that's touched your life that has made that ripple effect for you?
It's a really great question. There have been so many. We've had thousands of people who come through, and we have a 50%, nearly 50% return rate, which is really a testament to the program, but also to people who understand that we're at a different place every year. So this is the place to come back to that's safe and comfy. And we've had so many people come through, and the relationships that have developed are so beautiful to watch, because we don't even know once these people leave the gates what happens unless we sort of pop in on Facebook or they write to us. You know, we really sort of build these bridges and these spaces for people to go and connect. But there have been a couple of groups of women that have really moved and affected us. The first one was early in the game. We had a woman come who was a breast cancer survivor and had a really, and a lot of people come alone, and we put all the people who come alone together. So everybody's kind of, we're all really a 14-year-old walking into the cafeteria going, where do I sit and who are my friends? You know, so we design it for that. So we had a group of women, ages 21 to 63, I think. And they connected and bonded in such an incredible way that, interestingly, one of the girls would wake up every day at 6 a.m. and do every activity until midnight. And it wasn't until the end of the week, and they all changed numbers and they started a text thread, that this Jenna said, I realized I was so busy running from activity to activity, trying to find what I was looking for, that I missed the experience that was right there with me in the bunk. While I was out at the drum circle, they were laying in their beds telling dirty stories and crazy, jokes, and they had their own inside jokes. And I realized that I wasn't even a part of that. And it was such a lesson for me to see that, like, sometimes we're so busy chasing and looking for what we think is the solution that when it's right in front of us, we miss it because we're so busy searching. Those girls who called themselves the Bug Juice Bitches, which is so funny. Bug juice is the drink you have at camp. It's like lemonade. So this one, and after that first camp, they decided that they were all going to kick in $100 and nominate somebody in their life that they thought could use this camp. And they started their own little scholarship fund, and they started to send every year somebody to camp, and they would vote and they would pick one, and then they would come back and stay in the group together. And one of the girls who started the scholarship fund, her name was Rocky, she got sick again, and she came back, and you could see she was not doing great. And these girls rallied around her, and somebody flew in every chemo. She had one of her bitches by her side. And the day that she took her last breath, I was there with these girls who I didn't know well, surrounding her bed. She was clutching her bunk picture. Her family was like, they knew about these relationships, but it was one of those relationships at the end of her life. She was 52 years old when she died. And she said, we talked a lot in those final days about what these people meant to her. And she said, so many of us, we build our lives and we build around what we've accumulated in our lives. And sometimes you're at a certain point in your life where you're just looking for something new and something different. And I found that at camp, and the relationships that we have really connected to and with were so different. We never in a million years would have crossed paths like that. That really moved her. And so we've stayed connected. She actually, believe it or not, left her ashes to us. And we had a ceremony up at camp for, it was crazy. So that's one example. We have another group of girls who I met Saturday night. Two of them came into town and invited me to some sex talk that I went with them. They're in their 30s. They came to the Poconos a year ago. They called themselves, they were Bunk 8. There are 12 of them. They talk every single solitary day. She said she woke up that morning with literally 100 text messages. They just really have leaned on each other. There's another group of 30-something women. 3 of them are under 35 and going through divorce, and really, really didn't know anybody in that world. And they have connected and bonded. They call themselves the Fab Five, and they have been on 6-7 vacations together. So the relationships that are built here, some of which we're not even aware of, is what really makes me proud that we could create the space of joy for people, even who are dealing with challenges, to come and just let go and be silly and realize that you're not alone.
And I think that says so much, is understanding that it's It's about relationships. And what you're doing is you're driving a community together, and they're creating their own.
Right. And it's interesting because in the business space, we didn't know, to be honest. When Lululemon came to us, we said, we're not sure if men are going to be open to this, this kind of stuff. We're not sure they're going to go play and do some of these things we're going to ask them to do. But we are all so busy and so tapped out that when somebody invites you to come and just be you, authentically you, and gives you the space and the tools to be able to create something that is not going to happen in your normal life that you're normally in charge of, that is really where the change and the magic happens, is to take you out of your comfort zone and put you in a place and a space that maybe you would never have gotten to otherwise, but you're not going to be the bump on the log party pooper sitting out with your arms crossed like this. So in the beginning, the first hour or two at camp, that does happen. There are people who sit back and say, I don't know. But at the end of the day, what we have learned from people is that if you give them the opportunity to let go and enjoy life a little bit, they are right there with you, jumping in and also looking for the deep meaning and how can I make my life better and use this experience to get what I want, even if I didn't know what that was.
So I think one of the biggest lessons that I'm hearing in our chat today is that when you jump into the joy that life has to offer, and when you're committing to finding the joy, being in the joy, and living in the joy, all aspects of our life have the ability to flourish.
100%. And we don't sometimes, we have so much right now, all of us, we are just tapped. And when there's so much coming at you, sometimes you got to just stop and go be silly and go grab a friend, that friend that you haven't seen in 6 months or 8 months. And you keep saying, when I get to this point, we'll get together. Like take the time to sit, not just and enjoy a sunset, put your feet in the sand and dream about, like, okay, in 2 years, this is where I want to be. And how am I going to get there? You can't know where you're going if you don't know where that is. You certainly can't get there if you don't know where you want to go. And if you can wrap that, if you don't look at that in such a heavy way of, oh, I have to excavate this and change that. And you can look at it as, how can I sail through it and enjoy the ride and enjoy the journey? You know, that sounds so cliche, but we only have a certain amount of hours each day, and it's up to us on how we spend that. And if we want to stay mired in our emails and Facebook and all of that nonsense, like, that's our choice. But if we can go and just let go and connect to the little kid who lives inside of us that never worried about anything except, look at me, I want to have fun. I think you can really shift yourself. It really is not that hard.
Well, I will say one of the joys is having the opportunity to have gotten to know you. And I know we're going to be in this journey many, many, many times together, because I come to the West Coast, you come to the East Coast. I will be at Campowerment in March. And so I will be seeing you in a few weeks. More importantly, thank you for being here, and thank you for be willing to take a stand and show what you believe in. Jump in with it in 2 feet and make the difference for women and men everywhere, because it takes a leader, and it takes somebody who's willing to lead and create the space. And you've done that.
Thank you. And it's really just about getting brave. If anybody can do, dreams are really there for the taking. And I had a crazy idea that I've turned into my life's mission, and I had no idea that this is how I was going to land. But I invite your listeners to dream and to recognize and to get brave, and to know that in order to shift your life, you got to take a stand, and you got to do something that's going to make you a little uncomfortable. Campowerment is who we are. We have Ivy will be there March 22nd to 25th. Up in Lake Arrowhead. You can find us on Campowerment on all platforms. Please come play and just join the community. Even if you think you're not a camp person, we have a lot of really exciting programs that we're unloading, and we are really excited about creating communities, both corporately and with women for now. Maybe we have manpowerment on the horizon, but my life's mission is to create joy, and thank you for being a part of that, Ivy.
And thank you, Tammi. Thanks for joining me here today. You have some takeaways from this episode. Please leave them in our notes. Let us know what's making a difference in your world. Stay tuned for many, many wonderful interviews, some great content, and follow Tammi, follow myself, so you too can see some takeaways from Campowerment. See you next time.